Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to Newstos. So Xbox's flagship title, Halo Infinite, is about ready to receive a new update that could possibly change everything. You know, Halo Infinite in a lot of ways is an absolutely fantastic game with a good single player, the mechanics feel great, and the competitive multiplayer is also a lot of fun. I mean, this game even won the Game of the Year last year, voted by fans at the Game Awards. However, with all that said, it does need more post-release content to sustain a game like this. And well, about that, it looks like that's about ready to happen because a new impressive leak reveals just how infinite this game is about ready to become. Again, this changes absolutely everything, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that later on in the video. Also, the PlayStation 5 just got a much requested update that will ultimately make it a better platform than what it was yesterday, so we'll talk about that one as well. Before we get into the video though, do me a favor and go ahead and hit that like button below as well as the bell notification and subscribe button. That way you can keep up to date with all of the latest gaming news. I am here every single week, 5 days a week, so if you like gaming news even in the slightest, you're not gonna regret it. Other than that though, let's just go and jump right into the video. And to start things off today, we are going to be talking about yet another delay. I mean, we can't even go consecutive days without a delay by this point. Of course, yesterday we talked about the PlayStation 5 Star Wars The Old Republic remake receiving an indefinite delay, which is certainly not a good sign. And now today, I guess we get to talk about an Xbox delay as well. Yeah, unfortunately, Warhammer 40k Darktide has received yet another delay. It was originally slated to release on September 13th of this year, but has now been pushed back to November 30th on PC, while the Xbox version will release shortly after with a specific launch date to come. Unfortunately, we don't have that exact release date for Xbox just yet, but as soon as we do get an official date, of course, I'll let you all know all about that. This is a big day one Xbox Game Pass game though, and I know a lot of you all were very much looking forward to it, as it does look like it's going to be a good game from what we've seen so far. It has this very heavy focus on its cooperative gameplay, and I always love when these fun cooperative games come over to Game Pass, especially when they're day one titles. Game Pass really just allows you and your friends to just kind of jump into a game and play it together without having to convince your friends to purchase it themselves. It's one of those great benefits of being a subscriber, but with Darktide getting this delay here, unfortunately, you'll just have to wait a little bit longer. Hopefully, though, that just means for a better overall end result, which, you know, we don't want these games to be rushed and come out with all kinds of bugs and issues, so it's probably for the best thing, but unfortunately, we'll just have to wait a little bit longer. Next up, Steam just added a cool new support option that allows you to use your classic Switch controllers to play your games. That means controllers like the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and Nintendo 64 classic controllers will be completely functional while playing Steam games. This could actually be a very popular option while emulating games through something like RetroArch or playing older games like Turok, as an example. It could actually be a go-to option for those that grew up playing these games on their original platforms. I know for myself, if I'm playing an old Nintendo 64 game, having that original controller just kind of adds an extra layer of nostalgia, all while wondering how exactly you're actually supposed to hold it without growing an extra arm. Seriously, the design of the Nintendo 64 controller to this day is absolutely baffling. But I mean, I grew up with it, so I suppose I like it. Now, with that said, if you do want to use these classic controllers on Steam, it is important to note that the only way you can actually purchase them is to be a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online. And even then, the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Genesis controllers are very hard to come by. They do sell out pretty fast, as we've seen from a lot of products over the last couple years, but if you're lucky enough to get one, well, you can test it out on Steam thanks to this new update here. Let's go talk about this big Halo Infinite update, though, that could really just change everything for Halo Infinite and just Xbox as a whole, with a big boost to its flagship franchise, and that's Halo Infinite's new Forge mode. So, with the co-op flight test earlier this month, I guess 343 accidentally included a new and updated playable Forge mode, and it is seriously very, very impressive and maybe even mind-blowing. I always feel like 343 knows how good this new Forge mode is, so they just kind of left a back window in to play it yourself. That way it can just kind of spark a surge of excitement. And yeah, That's exactly what's happening here. The Halo community is already doing some very creative things with Forge mode, and with what we're seeing so far, this might be the dose of content that Halo Infinite needs to inject new life into it. It's really just absurd with what they're doing and all of its new features. It is so heads and shoulders better than anything Forge has done in the past. But we're going to actually take a look at exactly what I'm talking about. Like I said, the Halo community are already doing some very creative things, and they're releasing all types of videos onto YouTube, which is crazy when you think about it because this is before it's even officially out. Creators will absolutely get even better over time, so with what you're seeing today, yes, it's going to get even better than that. Nonetheless, though, I do want to highlight a few creations just to kind of show the infinite amount of possibilities that you have here. I am going to have a name of all the creators in the video, and I will link their videos below. Do go check out their original content, as they're doing an amazing job, and actually just go ahead and subscribe to them as well. They really are that good. The first one here, though, is the one that really caught my attention, and that is the recreation of the popular PT demo with Halo Infinite created by Death Templar. I mean, it looks strikingly similar to the original demo, from the atmosphere to the pictures on the wall. The attention to detail here is absolutely fantastic, and I think that this here alone is a true testament of how good this new Forge mode really is. I can only imagine some of the other games or inspired themes that could be recreated within Halo Infinite. I mean, there's also this other creator by the name of Elite Falcon, which has put a ton of videos together already, and Elite Falcon's already created several scenes based on Stranger Things or even Halo ODST. And again, you can just see how great this looks, and to think, this is just the beginning of these creations. These creators are only going to get even better from this point forward with the finalized product. But one thing that's really stood out to me with all these creations is that it's not like previous Halo games, where it was rather clear that Forge maps were user created, even when they were great. Because the items and the assets that they had to use, it was easy to tell that they were user created. But now, it's almost like it's just kind of blurring the line here of what developers and users are doing. And that's something that you can see here. This almost looks developer created in some ways, and a big part of that is because they do have just so much atmosphere. With a lot of these clips, it seems evident to me that you're going to have a lot of control over the atmosphere with the rain, the fog, different lighting. I mean, you can even turn the lighting a little bit more of this orange-esque color, something like you would see in Doom as an example. Maybe if you want something like a cyberpunk world, maybe you can do something like that as well. One of the other big parts to this new Forge mode, though, is scripting. You can essentially create completely new weapons, abilities, or objects within the game, and the Halo community is going ham on that right now. You can actually take a look at a portion of this Forge trailer here created by SickGen that highlights some of the things that Halo Infinite is capable of. Again, go check out the full trailer yourself. It's an absolutely amazing user-created trailer, but I mean, you can see just how wild things can get in this game, whether that be with the vehicles, your characters, their abilities, or just the level itself. It just seems like there are this infinite amount of things that you can do in this new Forge mode. There was even a person on Twitter that showed that you can actually create your own airstrike in this game through the scripting, which is that's pretty astounding there. So yeah, Halo Infinite's new Forge mode is absolutely crazy, and for those out there that have been asking for new content, well, it's right around the corner. This really could change everything for this game. Mod communities can single-handedly breathe a lot of life into games, as we've seen with games like Skyrim as an example, but because of how ingrained Forge is into the game itself, it's just going to be this much-needed surge of content that goes beyond, far beyond just a few new maps and game modes that 343 themselves can put together on their own in a limited amount of time. I think because of that, they've really been focusing a lot of their resources and time on this because, well, they know that, and they know just how good it is. What I think that they need to do, though, is when it does officially release, is to find the best creations, and if they're good enough, incorporate them into the main game. Maybe even include them in competitive if they really are that good. Let me know, though, do you like what you're seeing so far, and will you jump back into Halo Infinite once Forge mode is out? I know personally I will. I don't necessarily have the Forge skills to create some of these amazing projects per se, but I certainly will be excited to see what the Halo community can do. Now, we do also have some welcome PlayStation news today, as they just announced a much requested update as well as a new controller. Now, we'll talk about the controller here in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at this update. So, when the PlayStation 5 first launched, there was one thing that fans weren't necessarily happy about, and that was the lack of 1440p support. 1440p is a very popular option on PC monitors, and it's just this nice middle ground for resolution, all while helping you maintain that buttery smooth 60 frames per second. Plus, you can also add some extra graphical options by using 1440p. So without a doubt, because these 1440p monitors are pretty popular out there, not supporting that was a little disappointing to some fans out there. But that's about ready to change. Sony did announce today that the PlayStation 5 will soon support 1440p HDMI output. Now, you might be wondering what happens if you play in 1440p if the game actually renders at 4K. And Sony did say this: if you're playing a game with a higher native resolution like 4K, then you may benefit from improved anti-aliasing through super sampling down to 1440p output. So that's actually pretty nice as long as it does work properly. In order to enable it for yourself though, just go to your screen and video settings where you can change your resolution option to 1440p. The only thing is that right now it's only available through beta as of this moment. Once they make sure it's working properly, it will then launch on all consoles later this year. One thing that I do hope this leads to, though, is more native 1440p games. I've said this before in the channel, but 1440p, I think that it looks really good, and it would allow some of these games that struggle with frame rate to give them that boost that they need. And then maybe we could even see more ray tracing like we saw in something like Ratchet & Clank as an example. That would be pretty cool to see, in my opinion. There are some other new features in this update though, including compare 3D audio and stereo audio. You'll now have easier access to in-progress activities. There's also several new social features, and then one of the more exciting inclusions here is game lists. This is actually more or less folders with a fancy name, but it is there to help you organize your games. Basically, you can create a folder and name it, and then group your games into those individual folders. As an example, if you wanted something like, let's say, a 3D platforming folder that includes Sackboy, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Psychonauts 2, by the way, definitely go check those games out because they are awesome. But if you want to group those together, well, with these new game lists here, you can do just that. You can actually make 15 of these lists, all of which can manage up to 100 games. So if you do have a big digital library, this is a very nice option to have. Overall though, I think that this new update, it sounds great, and as I said at the beginning of the video, with these new additions here, the PlayStation 5 is better today than what it was yesterday. Very, very welcome additions to say the least. Now, as for this new controller, Sony did announce a brand new mobile controller that goes for $100. This is the Backbone 1 PlayStation Edition that you can use with your iPhone. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with Androids, but if you do have an iPhone, this was designed to work well while playing PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 remote play games. Now, it's not just limited to remote play, as you can also play several mobile-based games that support controllers such as Genshin Impact, as an example. One thing that you can kind of see here, though, is that Sony, they're continuing to branch out just a little bit more. Here recently, they did announce those new gaming monitors, they have those new headsets, and now they're jumping into mobile accessories as well. I'd say with that, this is probably just the beginning of their partnerships for these type of accessories. I absolutely 100% expect an Android PlayStation controller to be announced later down the line. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think it's okay that Sony is splitting games up in their Space Station, apparently I made a typo there, but in their PlayStation Plus tiers, and are making some games exclusive to Premium? And well, as you can see here, most of you all do not like this, with 71% of you saying no, I don't like it, while 20% of you said yes, I don't see the problem. And yeah, I'm with you all on this one. When I first saw this yesterday, my immediate thought was that it was strange. And I say that for a few different reasons. One was because it was completely unexpected. I don't know if I just missed something, but when Premium was first announced, I don't remember them saying anything about exclusive games. I need to go back and actually read that again. But what I thought was that it was just for PlayStation Classics and additional features like playable demos. But I guess that's not the case after all. So it did catch me a little off guard yesterday when they first announced this, but really my main problem with this is that it just devalues PlayStation Plus Extra. I mean, my thought process on PlayStation Plus Extra was, okay, well, Sony might not necessarily release their first-party games into it day one, but hey, it's $20 cheaper than Game Pass. So, okay, that's fair enough. But now Extra's not even getting all the games that Premium is. So it just makes it a little less enticing not knowing what you're going to miss out on a monthly basis. Now, you can kind of say that Xbox and Nintendo, they have their own tiers as well, but they're also very clear on what you're going to get. If you just want Xbox games, well, you can just get Xbox Game Pass for $120. Now, if you want PC games as well, and if you want Xbox Live Gold, well, then Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, that would be the direction to take. And then with Nintendo, if you just want old Super Nintendo games, well, you can just get Nintendo Switch Online. But if you want Nintendo 64 games, then you can go with Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack. But with Extra and Premium, you don't really know what you're going to get. It's just kind of, well, we might just hold these games from Extra and keep them exclusive on Premium simply because, reasons. So I don't know. I don't personally like them splitting up their games in PlayStation Plus, but all in all, at the end of the day, one thing that I have noticed over its first 2 months is that Sony, they're putting some good games into the service. So in terms of quality games, I think that at the very least, PlayStation Plus, Extra and Premium has gotten off to a good start. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.